Breath of fire, breath of fire. If my friends could see me now. All right, so I'm not going to give you that vignette just yet because that shit is turned up. I mean, it's not really too turned, but it's like, just be ready for Slytherin. All right, so first and foremost, welcome to the Angels in Politics broadcast. And remember, you are the news, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. This is a special moment because we're here for political collective or political connections. The collective is coming later. But right now, I have the board, and some of you said it's been a while since you've given us a lesson. So I really want to talk about something special today. And in the meantime, whilst I draw these things, tell me about your day. Like let me know what's been going down. Have you eaten? Have you had your meal? Um, okay, so you're fasting. All right, great. I haven't been on the fast in a while. I mean, I've just been drinking water. I mean, I have my water here. Just remember, staying hydrated. It's good for the tummy. And yeah, I mean, I had my oatmeal this afternoon, so I did have a meal. I did have my lunch. But right now, I really want to give you this message. Things are going pretty good with me. Let me know how you're doing. All right. So this word, I know it's displayed on the opposite end. So this word says synthesis, and we all are aware. I'm not gonna say all of us are aware, but for the most of us, we're aware of SOS, and we talk about SOS quite often here in Angels in Politics, which is your system of synthesis or your system of synchronicity, your system of sequence. All right, and that leads into um, actualization. It leads to realization. It leads to optimization. So it leads to all of these things here. So the system of synthesis will take you to your highest self, your best self, your quintessential self. Okay, like it takes you to oh my gosh, fucking marker on. Okay, that comes off. Okay, that comes off. I have like marker on my like furniture that will not go down. All right, so it takes you to here. The system of synthesis brings you to the hero. And I know a lot of you might be saying like, "Who is this person?" I don't want to be All Might, but you want to be your version of the hero, and that's what your own system will bring you. But you have to figure out what that is. And in the meantime, you want to talk about the two phases of your life, okay, or who you are. This is your the spirit, the mind, the body, but this is you here, and you have your IC, and then you have your SS. All right, I'm just gonna put that down, and I'm gonna explain. So we have the we have the inner child. All right, your inner child is that part of you that is, and I don't even want to just say the word pure, but I guess the inner child is the part of you that is curious. That's your creativity there. That's your source. That's your foundation. That's the fundamental component of yourself, or the fundamental components. Those are your building blocks. Those are your that's your that's the code. That's the coding to your software, and it provides you with your multifaceted, multi-dimensional personality aspects, and these are your traits. So your inner child is when You might think back to yourself when you were in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, secondary school, elementary school, things of that nature. And, you know, if you were to ask individuals, like your peers, people in your class, colleagues, educators or teachers, and ask them about yourself, right? Because right now you might be a little bit past, you know, your first grade year, your second grade year. Some of you who are listening might be into their, you know, well into, you know, a different phase of your story. If your life was a book, then you are in a different chapter. Maybe you're in chapter 20 plus. Maybe you're in chapter 30 plus. Maybe you're in chapter 40 plus. Whatever the case may be, you're still very young, of course. But your inner child is those are your early chapters, right? Those are your chapters in which you weren't necessarily aware of what you were doing, how you were doing it. It was very free. To put it simply, you were free. You were uninhibited. You were unadulterated. You weren't lacking any type of constraints through normalcies or society or sociological norms and rules and guidelines and what's approved or what's frowned upon. I mean, none of these things really apply to a child, honestly, because this is, I mean, they don't know what those words are. They really could care less. You can tell your child, you can tell your 4-year-old or 3-year-old or 5-year-old, like, this isn't right, this isn't good. But as soon as you like let them go and you just watch them and you see them, because we are aware that, you know, your children or you as a child somewhat acted differently whenever your parents were around and then when they were away. You know, some of us are different with our friends than we are at home with our parents. Some of us are different with our partners, our spouses, our girlfriends, our lovers, our romantics. We have a certain way with them than we are at the workplace, than we are at the, you know, at the church, where we are with our sporting, you know, teammates, or whatever the case may be. The inner child is where you were when you were in your youth, when you were open, when you were free, and these traits resonate to this day. But as we go older, as we mature, as we become, as I don't know what the term is, maybe more realistic is what they say, practical, sensible, pragmatic, we become a bit more logical. A lot of times we lose that inner child, because the inner child is free to learn. It's free to make mistakes. Actually, it welcomes the mistakes. Your inner child is so curious, is so open, is so unadulterated that it's like, it's a sponge, and it's looking for information. It's looking for, you know, abstractions. It's looking for concepts. It's looking for new ideas, and they want to test those ideas, and they want to iterate and continue to iterate on these ideas, because it's like, I'm interested in learning. Wow, this is a game to me. This is fun to me. This is something that intrigues me. This pulls me in. This sucks me in. This is your inner child. And when you have that, if you have a son or a daughter, look at them whenever you give them objects. Look at them when they're outside. Look at them when you place something, whether it's something as simple as a house phone. I know people don't have those anymore. We call that the landline back in the day. Give them a toy. Give them a fucking, you feel what I'm saying? A whatever this is, a house plant. They will manipulate it. They will evaluate it. They will deconstruct it. They will analyze it. They will touch it. They might taste it. They will turn it upside down. And you might say, hey, that's not what you're supposed to do with the plant. But there is no rules for them. They don't have rules, because your inner child is directly linked. It corresponds precisely with your creativity. Your inner child is your creativity. It is your inquisitiveness. It is your openness. It is your ability to continue to create ideas, or ideate is what they call it, or provide iterations on your ideas because you're continuing to figure things out. You're throwing the spaghetti at the wall every single day to see what sticks. And if it doesn't stick, you're gonna pick it up and throw something else at the wall. This is your inner child. So boom. I feel that we get to a point, or we get to a moment in life in which we lose that. We become, like I said, a bit more mature and realistic and grown up, and we become practical minded, and we become results oriented and detail oriented and career oriented, and we want to make sure that we find a stability in life and predict a predictable life and a predictable outcome, and we don't want any risk, and we don't want any change. We don't want to deviate from the structure or the infrastructure that has been laid for us. Okay, so as we struggle with our inner child, we have this SS here. And the SS is, I'm going to try to keep this short because I don't want to take this past 15 minutes. So I'll do this now. Your SS is your shadow self, and the shadow self is so important because you find that you find that as individuals we like to contain, or we like to withhold, we like to refrain from presenting this side of ourselves to other people because we're afraid, we're reluctant, we're apprehensive, we're a bit skeptical to reveal everything that we are, because we feel that if you were to see this, if you were to know how I am, if you were to see how I really am in these streets, if you were to know how I really talk when the doors close, if you really knew what I wanted to do with you whenever I turn these lights off, like all of these things, that shadow self is who you are. But it's like something within you that is so fearful because you are back to the inner child here, and this is why I have them interfacing in this way, in this going against each other, is because your shadow self is a part of you that you might feel like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to shift or change or alter the outcome or the surroundings or the people that are around me that affect my everyday life. Like, I don't want my lady to know that I'm really into some of this shit. Like, I really don't want my family to know that I really like going outside and smoking weed. I really don't want my people, my friends, to know that I watch these types of TV shows, or I'm into this types of artistry, or I do these types of things behind closed doors. It was funny. I remember being at my job when I was working on the cruise ship, and people were seeing me with this with my notebooks, because I write a lot, right? And people were like, yo, well, not people, one of my roommates, he came in and was like, what are you doing, dude? And I was just sitting there in my notebook, like, scribbling in the pad, and I was like, oh, this is my thing. And he was like, what the fuck, you got a diary or something? Like, is this a diary? And I'm like, I guess. I mean, it's a journal. It's my notebook. I have, hella notebooks. This is what I do. And it was nothing, it was nothing. But I could tell that he probably was looking at it as if, like, that is something I wouldn't have thought about you. That is something that I wouldn't have, gleaned from your personality and your archetype and the way you present yourself in a public setting. You don't seem like the type of dude who would be in his room instead of going out, and I do go out sometimes, but like, in the room by himself, like scribbling in a journal and having his own quote unquote diary, right? So it's like almost as if this is a shadow. This is a part of, this is like this, a part of you that, you don't really reveal to a lot of people. And, maybe that could have just been his perspective, but I feel like there's a lot of things, there's a lot of things within individuals that is like, if you were to ask your friends, did you know Whoop-de-Whoop is into that, or goes here, or does this, or has these videos? You might be like, no, I would never think that. And I feel like the struggle or the paradox between the shadow self and their inner child is because they are like, if it's a bird, they're opposing wings. It's the left wing and the right wing. It's the if this is a triangle, the top of the triangle is your self actualization. That's your system of synthesis. That's your optimal self. That's your quintessential self. That's your archetype. That's when you become the superhero. But the bottom 2 points of that triangle is here, and you're balancing that shadow, you're balancing that darkness, you're balancing those traits within yourself that you kind of want to, like, that you're afraid to really show. And then the other side is that inner child. That other side is that openness. That other side is that fearlessness. Do you feel what I'm saying? That's how they collide, and that's how it's such a struggle to balance that solar energy with the lunar energy, or the yin energy with the yang energy, or the higher self with the lower self, with the passive self with the active self, right? So that's my breakdown of the personality dimensions with the synthesis, because once you learn how to become in sync, system of synchronicity, right? When you learn how to synthesize, which is the interplay of the polar opposites, your shadow self with your inner childlike, open, creative, free willingness, your yearning, that unadulterated yearning to improve, to get better. And it's not like you want to check a box off on your or to tabulate or calculate some type of chart of your improvement. It's like, no, this is just who you are. You want to see new things. You want to go out and you want to explore. Your inner child is is you exploring your authenticity. And that shadow self is that part of you that says, hey, I'm not always happy-go-lucky. I'm not always Miss Perfect. I'm not always, smile in your face and kiss you on the cheek and this is always good. There are parts of me that I am turned up, and I will speak my mind, and I do curse, and I do drink, and I do smoke. And if you don't drink or curse or smoke, like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are parts of you that it's like, I'm not trying to be perfect for you, because it's not about you. It's about balancing who I am to be the optimal version of myself. Okay? So, as you can see, I'm passionate about that. So that's the system of synthesis. That's the system of synchronicity. I know I went over time, but this is just who the White Collar Goon is, the creative and artistic manifestation of angels in politics. Namaste and namaskar, my dear friends and family.